Students were discussing about um, local shear failure and general shear failure. What is the guidelines for ascertaining or assuming general shear failure or local shear failure? How to get an idea whether you are going to have a general shear failure? Okay, Terzaghi has told that in general, he has told that phi greater than 36, you are going to have general shear failure. Then phi less than 28, local shear failure. Now what is to be done in between? In between phi greater than 28 and less than 36, we have mixed state of shear failure. Now, he has told that what happens when there is a local shear failure? Full plastic equilibrium is not developed. Therefore, he has given that the mobilized cohesion and to use mobilized angle of interfriction. Mobilized shear parameters to be used. Okay. Therefore, he gives an idea how to get this. The mobilized cohesion is 2/3 of C. What is Cm? Cm is known as the mobilized cohesion. Tan phi m, mobilized angle of interfriction, is 2/3 of tan phi. In other words, if you want phi m, tan inverse of 2/3 of tan phi. Okay, now we are going to use this parameter to find out those bearing capacity factors using the bearing capacity equations. This is called the mobilized angle of interfriction. Angle of internal friction. Okay, now what happens to the bearing capacity equation? He has tried to, Terzaghi suggested that you have to use the modified bearing capacity factors. Therefore, the Q of becomes, instead of C and C, you use 2/3 of C into C and C plus. Okay, now we will be using NC dash. Instead of NC, we are going to use N prime, MC prime, gamma D, NQ prime, plus 0.5, gamma B, and gamma prime. Okay, these are NC prime, NQ prime, and N gamma prime are modified bearing capacity factors for local shear. We can either, how to find out these values? Either you can directly, for the given value of phi, try to take this modified bearing capacity factors, or use the reduced or mobilized angle of interfriction, and accordingly you can use a expression given by Terzaghi and you can evaluate. Okay. Now your process is very easy because you got tables for local shear failure Okay, take NC dash and Q dash and N gam dash from the tables for the corresponding values. For example, your 5 value is 28, 5 value is 27, sir. Don't modify this. Take for this value only, see from the tables. Don't try to again reduce this and then try to take. We don't do that. Okay, you have got specific values for the local shape value, local shape value. Therefore, you need to take this value of 5, given value of 5, and use these values from the tables. Okay, this is one thing. Now, this is what suggested by Terzaghi. Now, what are the other guidelines? How I can? There are 4 criteria, 5 criteria. Let us try to see those criteria for. The first one is 5 greater than 36 based on angle of interflexion. Based on angle of interflexion. I can differentiate whether it is, say, if it is 36, already I have discussed, it is general shape failure. 5 less than 28, local shape failure. The second criterion, okay, is based on SPT, standard penetration N value. If my N value is greater than or equal to 30, then I call it as general shape failure. N less than or equal to 5, it is local shape failure. Before going to the field, I should have looked into the laboratory results. Okay, we will try to discuss about that criterion. Therefore, see, when your 5 see N value is more, that indicates that the soil is more stiff, it is going to have more penetration resistance, therefore it is going to be a soil which is more stiff and it is going to have a typical general shape failure. And when N value is less than 5, means it indicates it's a very soft soil, therefore it is a compressible soil, therefore we are going to have local shape failure. The third one is based on strain at failure. What do you mean by strain at failure? If I take a cylindrical specimen and try to do a triaxial shear test, when I do a triaxial shear test with all the all-round cell pressure, okay, I do a triaxial shear test. Now, how will be the stress strain curves? Now, the axial stress versus axial strain. If you have the failure, the deformation takes place, okay, at a very high strain, okay, that indicates that this is for a stiff soil, therefore this is general shear failure and this is for local shear failure. The strain at failure, axial strain at failure, usually will be less than or equal to 5%, around 5%. Therefore, it is going to have a peak, and this is for a general shear failure. And the axial strain at failure, if it is going to be more than 10, okay, it is 10 to 20%. Not more than 20%, because we are going to stop at 20%. Usually compressible soils deform even up to 20%, it will never fail. Therefore, we call it a halt. And these kind of soils are going to compress more. Therefore, there is a lot of strain taking place by loading. Therefore, you can expect a local shear failure. Okay? I can interpret based on the shear test which is done in the laboratory, where such kind of soils can behave in a general shear failure and fail in general shear. And if it is going to be having a lot of deformation till it fails, that is going to give an indication that it is going to have. Therefore, more than 10%, anything greater than 10%, it's a very clear indication. Then the fourth one Fourth criteria, already we have discussed based on the plate load test. Based on the fourth one, plate load test. Students, we have very clearly understood this results from the plate load test. This is the settlement and this is the intensity Q. Okay, I will have a clear. This is general shear failure. This is local shear. Therefore, I know based on the plate load test. Finally, how to? There is a term called relative density or density index. Relative density. Or density index. Both are one and the same because we use it interchangeably. When your ID value greater than or equal to 70%, clearly indicates that it is a very stiff soil, general shear failure. When the ID is greater than 65% to 85%, it's generally a dense soil, therefore it is going to have a general shear failure. When ID is less than or equal to 20, then local shear failure. This is a loose soil. Now also you have to understand, students, not necessarily that it should be a clay soil. It can also be a loose sand, okay, loose silty sand. It is going to compress. Because of the loose condition, it is going to compress more. Therefore, you are going to have local shear failure. Therefore, the same material, if you try to densify it, okay, it can go into a more stiff condition and relative density can increase. Then it can it can lead to a general shear failure. Okay, these are the 5 criterions, okay, based on which you are going to differentiate whether it is a general shear failure or a local shear. You can infer from this data. Now we will go to the next aspect. Now if you got a mixed shear failure, what I need to do? You need to do the interpolation. With my phi value for mixed shear failure, bearing capacity factors are obtained by interpolation. Now we will go to the what are the limitations of Terzaghi's theory. What are the limitations? The first one. See, usually the plastic is sufficient deformation for plastic equilibrium to establish. Now, whatever bearing capacity equations he has given is meant for the plastic equilibrium or verge of failure, but sufficient deformation usually doesn't take place. This is one of the limitations. Then what happens? Phi changes with the deformation. Or compression. Therefore, your phi value, what phi value I need to take? But of course, you have taken the phi values at failure from the laboratory assay to plastic equilibrium. Therefore, it is interdependent. And now, the third one is that it is meant only for vertical loads. No inclined loads. Therefore, this is one of the shortcomings. Only for vertical loads. The fourth one is no effect of shape, depth, because he has taken only a stiff foundation. He has taken for a long wall footing. okay, infinitely long footing, and depth of the foundation, if it is going to change, how it is going to influence, because your overburden pressure is going to change. All these things are not taken into consideration. Therefore, the shape of the footing, depth of the footing, and the size of the footing. So whether it is a circular footing or a spark footing, what depth it is going to have different bearing capacity, and what is the size of the footing, the dimensions of the footing. Therefore, all these things have to be discussed. Now, later, it tries to give some modified expressions for the modified expressions. I will give you the specializations in Terzaghi's. Of Terzaghi's equation. For C5 soils, okay, you got a circular footing. What is going to happen to the expression is, you will have 1.3 times of CNC plus gamma D and Q plus 0.3 times of, see earlier it was 0.5 for rest footing. That's the difference. Then for a square footing, the value of QF is equal to CNC 1.3 times. If the difference is also that, you are going to have 1.3 as a multiplying factor into gamma D. Only the first term and the cohesion term and the width term, you got some modification. This becomes 0.4 gamma B and gamma. Then for a rectangular foundation, a rectangular footing, we will have the CNC, instead of multiplying by 1.3, there is a term which is 1 plus 0.3 B by L. See, you are multiplying by the ratio of the width to the length, and you are getting that to earlier it was CNC. Instead of multiplying by 1.3, which is done in for the circular footing and the square footing, you are going to multiply by 1 plus 0.3 B by L. Okay, therefore, the ratio of B by L is going to come into picture, and the remaining things remain same, similar to a square footing. The only difference is this one compared to the square footing. Now, when you have a circular footing, clay footing, now let us try to see if it is. For a cohesive soil, or a sea soil, or phi equal to 0, what happens to this circular footing? QF is equal to the other term, the circular term, this becomes 1, gamma D to NQ becomes 1, therefore this gets noted. This only basically depend upon the cohesion. Whenever you got a cohesion, basically depends upon this thing, plus your overburden pressure. This is 1, done. The rectangular or square footing will have only one expression. In fact, when it becomes a square footing, B by B, it becomes 1, therefore 1 plus 0.3 becomes 1.3, therefore one expression has been given, plus gamma D. Now, you have to understand that your basic contribution is coming only from the cohesion term. and the remaining a little bit of overburden pressure. Okay, and you don't have the width term. Then when you have a purely friction soil, the third variety, when you have only a non-cohesive soil, what happens, or a phi soil? Okay, now for stiff footing, even first we need to modify for the stiff footing, because yes, given for a C5 soil in a general shear failure for a general condition. Now what happens to this? Gamma D NQ plus 0.5 gamma B and gamma. The first term, the cohesion term, because phi soil you don't have cohesion, therefore the first term is getting eliminated. You have got the second surcharge term and the width term. Therefore this is understood. Then for a rectangular or square footing, what happens to the QF value? Only thing is that you are going to have slight variation in the coefficient that you are going to multiply for the width term, and finally for a circular footing, okay. Now we understood for different shapes of footing is given, but depth factor and inclination factor is not going to come into picture. That will be seen only in the Merov theory, and we will try to discuss that in the later section. Now one more important thing is, students, normally it is likely to rain. When it rains, what happens? What is the effect of water table? If the water table rises, what is the effect of water table on bearing capacity? In fact, I should have discussed about what are the factors affecting bearing capacity. I think after this I'll tell you. Okay, now once you understand the factors affecting bearing capacity, especially the water table, let us see two cases. When if this is the footing, now I've got two levels. Okay, now I take the zone from the ground level up to the footing level. This is D, and below the footing up to a depth. Okay, if this is the width of the foundation, up to the influence will be only up to the width of the foundation. This will be up to the width of the footing. Below that, okay, if your water table comes below depth of the footing, which is at a depth which is equal to the width of the footing, there will be no effect of. Below this, okay, ground water table has no effect on bearing capacity. Okay. Therefore, now we will try to see what happens, okay, if my water table is in this zone, what happens if my water table is in this zone. Now, what is my expression for the ultimate bearing capacity? C NC plus gamma D NQ plus 0.5 gamma B and gamma. Now, we introduced two reduction terms, RW1 and RW2. Students, you have to understand RW1 and RW2 are reduction factors. What are these reduction factors meant for? Now, you have unit weight only in the second term and the third term. Now what is going to happen? We know when there is a water table, when it gets saturated, it is going to become buoyant and it is going to have a different unit weight. Therefore, we need to reduce the bearing capacity. Means we reduce the unit weight. Now, with the first method, there are three methods. I'll give you all the methods. Okay, we try to understand. RW1 is given as 0.5 times of 1 plus ZW1 divided by D. And RW2 is equal to 0.5 into 1 plus ZW2 divided by B. Means RW1 will be affecting here in this zone. Okay, let us try to take limits. 1 ZW1 equal to 0. Means when the water table is at this level, then what happens? Your RW1 becomes 0.5 into 1 plus this 0, therefore this term becomes 0, therefore it will be 0.5. When ZW1 equal to D, what happens to RW1? This becomes 1 because 1 plus this ZW1 by D means that D by D becomes 1, therefore 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 into 0.5 becomes 1. Therefore, when the water table is at the ground level, it is going to be 0.5, therefore when I multiply by 0.5 to this one, what happens? This becomes gamma submerged. Okay. Gamma into RW1, which is equal to gamma into 0.5, it becomes, this will be, we are going to use saturated unit weight, therefore it is going to be approximately equal to the submerged unit weight. If your submerged saturated unit weight is approximately 20, okay, now when you subtract with 9.81, that is gamma W, it becomes around 10, therefore it is 50%. Okay. Now similarly, when the ZW1 is equal to D, then what happens? RW equal to 1 means there is no effect when it comes to this level. Now this one, when the water table is at ZW2 is at the footing level is equal to 0, that means RW2 is equal to 0.5. Similarly, ZW2 equal to B, then RW2 becomes 1. Therefore, it's very clear that beyond this depth, there is no effect of the water table. Okay. Therefore, we have to use this reduction factor. We have to accordingly, wherever, okay, in case it is in between, you have to find out that reduction factor for this one, and the reduction accordingly we will get the reduction factors. This will be more clear when we take up numerical examples. This is one method, but this is not a preferable method. There is another method which I am going to tell you. This is more effective. I will not discuss the IS code method. Okay, I will give the gist of the IS code method, and we will try to take, instead of multiplication, we will try to take the effective unit weight or the average unit weight, because that becomes more effective. I will discuss about that shortly now. Students, now we will go to the second method. I'll better write all those things. Okay, instead of you getting confused. Okay, you need to know all the methods. What I'll do is I'll give you the IS code method. Students will go to the next method. There are the three methods, but I'll discuss about only what is the gist of that IS code method. In this, what it tells, okay, let us say if the water table is at some depth here, then let that depth be denoted as D1 and this as D2. Okay. Now, it tells, the IS code tells that instead of using the reduction factor, use a unit weight. This is effective unit weight, okay, plus 0.5 into gamma B into reduction factor. Of course, when the water table is above this level, this obviously this is going to become 0.5 only, because it is completely submerged and it is going to be saturated, and because of the saturation, because of submergence, it is going to be submerged. Therefore, I am going to use a reduction factor to reduce this unit weight. Now, what is this unit weight? Actually, the equation is given like this: QF is equal to CNC plus this is taken as gamma sigma prime. This is the surcharge term into NQ plus 0.5, because you will be referring to textbooks, because you may wonder what I have done. Okay, what is this? Sigma prime is equal to gamma effective into D, where gamma effective is equal to, what is trying to do here is, see, above the water table, this in this zone, it is in a partly saturated condition. Here dB, in this zone it is saturated. Of course, this is also saturated. Therefore, as a consequence, we will get 0.5. Now, how to average this out? Therefore, what it does is, for a depth D1, okay, you have bulk density into D1, okay, plus gamma saturated into D2, okay, minus gamma W into D2. That is the, in other words, is nothing but to whatever depth I am going to divide by, okay, I am trying to use, now these are the terms having the depth term D2, therefore it is nothing but gamma saturated minus gamma W into D2, sorry, W. Therefore, this becomes, sorry, plus gamma submerged into D2. Therefore, I am going to get a effective unit weight for this. So, to whatever depth I got bulk unit weight, I'll take more bulk unit weight, and I think I should divide by, okay, this is not gamma E, this is, okay, this is equal to something, because the D is coming here. Okay, instead of multiplying by D, it is coming inside. Okay, this is the, I am going to use this one. Now, Bowles has also given another method, okay, that is, for example, your water table is in this zone. Let us say my water table is at this depth. Okay, this is ZW2. Now, let me represent this by the water table. This is the water table. Now, he tries to give a zone. This angle is equal to alpha, which is equal to 45 degrees plus pi by 2. This is also alpha. In this zone, okay, now he tries to give a depth h. You have to consider a depth h, where that h is, this is the method 3 given by Bowles, Joseph E. Bowles. This method, okay, he tries to give that this value of h is equal to 0.5 times of tan of 45 degrees plus pi by 2. Effectively, h will be equal to your b. In other words, it will be approximately equal to b. Based on that experience only, people have told that you have to take b. Now he has given, okay, now what you have to do, we have to use an effective CNC plus, now in this zone you have got saturated, in this particular zone, okay, below the water table, you have got, going to use 0.5 into gamma E into n gamma. Now what is this? He is giving an expression gamma equivalent. This is the equivalent unit weight. So this is slightly complicated, nothing to worry. The second method which I told, that is the most convenient thing. It gives in terms of 2 times of H minus ZW2, which is the depth of the water table from the footing level, plus into ZW2, that is the ratio of the height of the water table divided by square of the height or the zone which you are going to consider into gamma. To this gamma you are multiplied by this ratio plus gamma dash into, but it's slightly complicated, but you should have an awareness that this method is also there. But I would always prefer the IOS code method to take the average unit weight. Now there is another method. Alternately, I can use the IOS code method only. It's the same thing. Okay. What I am going to do is, to whatever depth, okay, whether it is in zone 1 or zone 2, we are going to, let us say, in the zone 1, okay, where up to the depth of footing, you follow this will be very, very convenient for you. How to find out this equivalent? Okay, now I am going to use, instead of, I'll alter this expression, instead of RW1, I'll try to use the effective, wherever it is, okay, wherever I'm going to use the effective. Now how to get this effective? Ultimately my purpose of multiplying by the reduction factor is to get my appropriate value of the effective unit weight. What I'll do is the effective unit weight, now in this zone, for what height, let us say for Z1, D1, now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to write the expression. I'll take an average instead of equivalent, or I'll take average, write it as average unit weight or equivalent unit weight. Gamma average is equal to gamma into ZW1. Let us say my water table is up to this depth. In this zone, what happens? It is in a bulk unit weight plus gamma saturated into, no, not gamma saturated, minus gamma W into D minus of ZW1. In the remaining portion, I am going to take submerged unit weight. Therefore, in this zone where I am taking the bulk unit weight, in whatever zone it is submerged, I take the submerged unit weight divided by ZW1 plus D minus of ZW2. What is the value? This gets cancelled, therefore it is nothing but effectively divided by D. Therefore it is effectively D. Therefore I am taking the ZW1 for that height, the appropriate unit weight, and for the remaining depth there it is submerged, I am going to take this. Then for the second one, if water table is below footing level, in the second case, what I am going to do is the same thing. Gamma average is equal to gamma B. So let us say in this zone, this is in gamma B, this is in, the unit weight is saturated. Therefore, I am going to write similar expression, gamma saturated minus gamma W. It is not given in textbooks, I only try to do it, becomes easy for you. Instead of D becomes B minus ZW2 divided by, this is ZW2 plus B minus of ZW2. Therefore, this effectively becomes B. This is the way how you can find out. We'll try to work out some numerical examples. Then we'll try to see how we can use this. We can compare the first method and this average unit weight and try to compare, and we'll try to see how they are going to differ. It is always advantageous to use the average unit weight instead of taking the reduction factors. Now we'll take a numerical example. In the first numerical example, we'll try to see how to use Terzaghi's expressions to find out for the various footing shapes. Okay, this is the first numerical example. The data given is, it is a sand medium where you got phi is equal to 36. It's in a dry condition. Gamma D is 19 kilonewton per meter cube. This is dry. Then the depth of footing is 1.2 meters. Okay, it's asking you to use a factor of safety of 2.5. Students, I forgot to mention about the factor of safety. Factor of safety usually for soil bearing capacity, usually we take 2.5 to 3 to get your SBC. To get SBC, we usually use a factor of safety from the QF value. If I divide by the factor of safety, I get my QS, safe bearing capacity. Now he has asked you to find out what is to find Q safe. Okay, now three types of footing: 1.5 meter wide strip footing. The second one is 1 meter by 1 meter square footing. The third one is 1 meter diameter circular footing. Now he has given the table. Depending upon the phi value, he has given the make use of these values. He's telling phi is 35 and for 40 the NC values. So in case it is not given, you can refer to the textbook and you can or any standard books. You can get these values. Or there will be curves also, you can take from the curves, you can read out from the curves. .4, 100.4. Now students, your value of phi is 36, somewhere in between this. So try to understand, the given data is that it is sand, the phi value has been given, unit weight has been given, the depth of footing is given, factor of safety is given. You need to find out the safe bearing capacity. Now we have got different shapes of the footing. I am going to work out for one shape of the footing. Let us take the first case, okay, case 1. Before going to that case 1, let us try to evaluate the value of bearing capacity factors for phi equal to 36. Now, what is NC? Is it required to evaluate NC? Because it is a sandy soil, this term gets eliminated, therefore this not needed to evaluate. Now, what is the value of NQ? You should be very judicious, don't waste your time. Now, for sandy soil, okay, the value of phi is 36. What is happening? It is increasing. You can see here there is an increase. Okay, there is an increase in value from 35 to 40. Therefore, I'll write 41.4 plus. What is the difference? 81.3 minus 41.4 is the difference. And what is the difference in the value of phi? it's called a rule of three. Rule of three means for 1 dozen banana, I got to say 40, okay, let us be realistic, say 120 rupees. Okay, now for one banana, how much? 120 divided by 12. Now for 4 bananas, okay, what is the value? 120 by 12 into 4. That's what you are trying to do here. For a difference of 40 minus 35, there is a difference of 81.3 minus 41.4. For a difference of this, how much is the value? This is what I am writing here in the numerator. Okay, this is 36 minus 35. This is for 12. This is for 5. The difference is for 5. That's how we are going to get. Now let me take a calculator and work out. Calculate that value doesn't matter. Okay, let us not worry about the calculator. This is 81.3 minus 41.4 into 36. Okay, it is 1 divided by 5 is so much, plus 41.4 is going to be 49.38. It's reasonable. Similarly, what is n gamma? N gamma is equal to 42.5. Here also it is increasing, therefore I have to write plus. Instead of that, if you want to go in the reverse way, it is 95.7 minus 81.3 minus, then you can get the value. Either way you can do it. 100.4 minus of 42.4, okay, into 36 minus 35 divided by 40 minus 35. Therefore it is 100.4 minus 42.4 divided by 5 plus 42.4. I get 54. Now once I got these values, I'll write to the side. Okay, my value for NQ is equal to 49.38 and N gamma is equal to 54. Now again as this question, now we'll try to solve this problem. Students, very clear, it is 36 equal to or greater than, it's a local general shear failure, nothing to worry. Our expression for wide strip footing, now QF is equal to case 1, strip footing or strip foundation, QF is equal to CNC plus gamma D NQ plus 0.5 gamma B N gamma. Now this is going to be 0 because it doesn't have any value, because C is 0. Gamma is 19 into D is 1.2 meters into NQ is 49.38 plus 0.5 into gamma is 19 into B is, the width here is given 1.5. Okay, this is itself is B, 1.5 meters into N gamma is 54. What is the value? 19 into 1.2 into 49.38 plus 0.5 into 19 into 1.5 into 54. This is 1895.36 kilonewton per. Units are very important. This is stress unit. Now we'll go to the case 2. It is a square foundation. What is the expression? QF is equal to this is 1.3, okay, gamma D into NQ plus 0.5 into gamma B into. Now what is the difference? Okay, your difference is only B. Okay, this is any of 0. gamma is 19 into 1.2 into NQ is 49.38 plus 0.5, and this is not 0.5, this is 0.4. 0.4 into 19 into B is 1 meter into N gamma is 54. What happens to this value? This is 19 into 1.2 into 49.38. This value I will write it here because it will be the same thing for .4 into 19 into 54. So what all values are evaluating is QF. Okay, I have not completed. We have to go to the answer, means you need to evaluate the same bearing capacity. So what has happened, because of the change in the size of the footing, what is happening? Your bearing capacity is getting reduced. Now the third case is case 3 is a circular footing. QF is equal to same thing, 1.3 times of CNC plus gamma D into NQ plus 0.3 into gamma B into N gamma. Okay, now this is 0. Now what will be this value? This is 0.4 into 19 into 54 plus 112.5.864. It's 15. Thank you. Instead of B, this is D. Okay, this is nothing understood. Okay. E or T, the diameter. This is actually the diameter, 1 meter. 18 into 54 plus 2, 6. This will be 1,433.664. Now the change in this shape is going to plus this is 1.5 meter. Please understand, this is 1.5 meter. This is 1 meter. This is also 1 meter. Therefore, it is going to have a reduced, and you got a change in your coefficient from 0.5 to 0.4, 0.3. Therefore, definitely it is going to reduce. Therefore, the effect of the shape has come into picture. Okay, now we will try to go to the next variety of problems. Effect of water table. I'll give you the data. Strip footing. The width is 1.5 meter. The load intensity. So in the previous problem, I didn't find out the safe bearing capacity. Whatever values you have got, no, you have to divide by the factor of safety. Please divide that and you will be getting your factor of safety. That I missed. Okay. I have evaluated only the ultimate bearing capacity. The load intensity is 400 kilonewton per meter square. The depth is 1.2 meters. It is sand. Gamma D is 19.5 kilonewton per meter cube. And below water table 16.8 kilonewton per meter cube. Shear strength parameter C is equal to 0, phi is equal to 36. It has been 35. Phi has been given 35. Then to find is asking to find out the factor of safety. It's an interesting problem. Okay, instead of giving the factor of safety, is asking to find out factor, because he has given the load intensity, means what is the load actually acting at the footing. Now the cases are, first case, water table, at 5 meters below ground level. B, water table 1.2 meter below ground level. This is a very detailed problem. We'll understand everything in this numerical example. This is 2.5 meters below ground level. D, water table 0.5 meter below ground level. And E, water table at ground level itself. We'll take up all these cases individually and solve the problem. Now for a strip footing, what is the expression for a strip footing? The bearing capacity, the ultimate bearing capacity, you can write UBC, ultimate bearing capacity is given by, what we'll do is we'll try to simplify that expression and keep it gamma, sorry, this is CNC plus gamma D and Q plus 0.5 gamma B and gamma. This becomes 0 because it is sand, therefore QF is equal to, let us substitute the values of, instead of substituting gamma, we will try to substitute in terms only D and which are, this is a variable because depending upon the condition, 1.2 into, now one important thing here is, let us assume, before this thing, let us assume general shear failure, because phi is 35, which is less than 36, but still let us assume, okay, that doesn't matter, okay, let us assume that value and we'll try to take that values of the thing. Therefore, for phi is equal to 35 and assuming general shear failure, let us see what are the values of the NC, NQ and N gamma. Of course, this you don't need it, okay, now NQ and N gamma has to be taken. Let us take those values from the tables and write those values, and let us try to have a generalized equation, then we'll take up individual cases. Now let us take the values of NQ. NQ is equal to 41.4, then N gamma is equal to 42.4, okay, with these values. Now let us substitute here and get the value of an expression. This is 41.4 into D is 1.2 into gamma plus 0.5 into B is 1.5 meter into N gamma is 42.4 into gamma. Now I get an expression 49.68, and I need to have a reduction factor RW1 and RW2 because depending upon the case we need to use this reduction factors. Okay, this expression gamma into RW1 plus 31.65 into gamma into RW2. Now I will work out for one case, we will see how we can try to do for other cases. When the water table is at a very great depth, okay, what is the width of the foundation? Okay, width of the foundation is 1.5 meters, therefore this is greater than, okay, now what is the depth? Okay, 1.2 plus 1.5, it is 2.7. Therefore, this is at a greater depth, it is not going to influence. Let me take up our first case. Case 1, and the footing is something like this. This is 1.2 meters, which is 1.5 meters. Water table is at a very great depth. This is 5 meters. Therefore, your influence will be only up to this depth is equal to P is equal to 1.5 meter. Therefore, this is 1.2 plus 1. It is 2.7. Therefore, the ground water table is not having any influence at very great depth. Hence, has no influence on the capacity. Therefore, what happens? Your QF is equal to, with that expression, what is that expression? 49.68 into gamma into RW1. RW1 becomes, therefore, what happens? RW1 and RW2 go to 1. Okay. Therefore, you will have RW1 and RW2 eliminated into gamma. You substitute the value of gamma is 49.68 into gamma is 19.5 saturated. Dry this value I have to substitute into 19.5. I get my value 1366.35. Now, since he has asked the factor safety, now what is your SBC? SBC is equal to, okay, now I can write the factor safety is equal to the ultimate divided by the working load. Okay, this is the what you can say Q design or Q working load. Therefore, this has been given. Now, whatever SBC you are going to get, that you are going to use for your design. Therefore, your ultimate bearing capacity is 1366 by your advice, and your working load is 400. Therefore, I get a factor of safety of 3.42. Therefore, it is quite safe. Similarly, we can we'll work out the for the different cases. We'll just understand how we understood the solving the problem. In the similar way, we can go for different cases when water table is at 1.2 meters. Therefore, it is exactly at the footing level. In this case, its water table is in this level. Okay, it is in the zone. Okay, it is within the width of the foundation below width of the footing below the footing level. Therefore, we have to find out the average unit weight. Here also you have to find out the here it is not a problem because you directly get this is 0.5 and here it is gamma dry. Then in the third case, it's very important to find out the average unit weight, and in the fourth case, it is in this level. Therefore, you need to find out the average unit weight. In the third and fourth case are important. That will be explained to you. And finally, when it comes to the ground level, both RW1 and RW2 becomes 0.5. That is a very straightforward case. First and last one are straightforward. In between, you will have to work out the values of RW1 and RW2. We continue and also find out the average unit weight. Students, continuing with the numerical example. Now let us go to the second case. In this case, the water table is 1.2 meters below the ground level. So let us draw this is at the depth of the footing level. Okay, it is at the footing level. This is the groundwater table. Now, in this case, what happens in this zone, okay, it is dry and this zone is saturated. Therefore, accordingly, we have to do this. Okay, now what happens to the reduction factors? Now, what is the expression? QF, you got that expression. The expression for QF. .68 into gamma into RW1 plus 31.65 into gamma into RW2. Now what are these values of RW1 and RW2? Now first case, okay, in the first term RW1 is equal to, what happens to that RW1? It is 0.5 where this ZW1 varies from here and this ZW2. RW1 is equal to 0.5 into 1 plus ZW1 divided by D. Now what is the value of D? 0.5 into 1 plus ZW1 is, because the water table is here, ZW1 is equal to at the footing level, therefore it is equal to 1.2 meters, and the depth of footing is also 1.2. This becomes 1. Therefore 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 into 0.5 is 1. And what is RW2? It is 0.5 into 1 plus ZW2 divided by B. Here ZW2 is 0 because it is exactly at this level. Therefore it is 0.5 into 1 plus ZW2 is 0 divided by B is whatever value B. Okay, it is going to become 0. Therefore it is 0.5. Now substituting this case is very clear. I will get substituting this value. One one four three 0.21 kilonewton per meter square. Since he has given the design load, okay, now let us find out what is the factor safety. Factor safety of for air is equal to the ultimate divided by the design load 1143.21 divided by this is 400. Okay, I get a factor safety of 2.86. Now compared to the first one, in the first case, water table is at a very great depth. Okay, it was at 5 meters. The water table was at a very great depth, okay, 5 meters from the ground level. Therefore, your first case, your factor safety was case 1, it was 3.42. Now, case B, the factor safety is coming to 2.86. Now, as the water table is rising, it is going to the footing level. What's happening? The factor safety is reduced. Now, we'll go to the case C. When the water table goes to it's at water table is 2.5 meters. It is at 2.5 meters below the ground level. Now what I'll do is I'll try to make some space here so that you can understand. The water table is 2.5 meters from the ground level. This is 1.2. Okay, then it is out of 2.5. If I subtract 1.2, it becomes 1.3. Therefore, what is the value of B? B is 1.5 meters. Therefore, it is within this zone. Okay. Therefore, your water table is at a depth which is within the depth of this. If this is the, let me erase this portion. The water table is at a depth what will be this depth? Total depth is 2.5 meters. This is 2.5 meters. Therefore, the remaining depth will be 1.3 meters. Now, usually your zone, okay, this zone up to the depth equal to, this is equal to B, which is equal to 1.5 meters. In that zone, where RW, the reduction factor is going to take into, you have to take into consideration the reduction factor. Now, let us try to find out what is the reduction factor. As already done, this reduction factor RW1 will be 1. Okay, we will do by two methods. Okay, we will try to find out by two methods. The reduction factor is 1. Now, what is the second thing? ZW2, what happens to this value? This is equal to ZW2 for the second case. Okay, your ZW2 varies from the footing level. Therefore, this becomes 1.3 meters divided by 1.5 meters. This reduction factor also to be 0.933. So since it is coming very near to the depth equal to the width of the footing, therefore what is happening? This is coming very near to 1. Okay, now let us try to find out what is the average. Let us try to find out the average unit weight. Okay, we will do by two methods. Okay, what is the average unit weight and what is the effective unit weight? To find out the average unit weight, what we can do is, for this depth, okay, this is dry and this is saturated. Therefore, we need to use the average values. Okay, now this is 16.8. So what is the dry unit weight? Dry unit weight is 16.8. 16.8 into the depth 1.3 meters plus the saturated unit weight is 19.5 into what is this depth? This is 0.2 meters into 0.2 meters divided by, I take my the total, okay, this depth plus this depth. Now this works out to 17.16 kilonewton per meter cube. This is one thing. Okay. Now let us also find effective unit weight. Okay. Instead of going for the, because this is actually submerged, okay, therefore I have to take submerged unit weight. What I will do is, I will take 16.8 into 1.3 plus, I got 19.5 minus 9.81 into 0.2. Okay, this becomes the effective unit weight 15.85. Now what I am going to do is, when I am using the unit weight, I am going to multiply for the average unit weight into the reduction factor, whereas I am using this one directly, I am not going to use for the second term the reduction factor. Therefore, the QF value, I know what is my QF value. The expression is 49.68 into gamma into RW1. That is the expression 1. In this expression, now let us go by method 1. When I use method 1, the QF value will become, okay, I am using here reduction factor, this is equal to 1, 49.68 into gamma, this is in the zone 1, okay, it is gamma dry, it is 16.8 into 1 plus 31.65 into gamma is, now what is it? I am using gamma average here, I am using gamma average 17.16 into 0.933, which was the reduction factor. I'll get, if I work out from this method, I get value of ultimate bearing capacity as 1341.35 kilonewton per meter square. Okay. Now if I use method 2, (49.68) into 16.8 into 1 plus 31.65 into this quantity, I'll use the effective unit weight 15.85. Now if I multiply this by this, okay, it will be approximately near to this, okay, it will be slightly more. This comes to 1336.28 kilonewton per meter square. Now these are the two values. Okay, now see here, they are very close. Okay, now instead of finding out the reduction factor and wasting your time, see directly, you know, since the water table is below the footing level, directly this will be O1. You eliminate finding out what is RW2, directly find out what is the effective unit weight, because it's almost similar. Use your, this is submerged unit weight. This quantity is submerged unit weight. Take submerged unit weight, directly here you have taken saturated unit weight, found out the average unit weight, then you are multiplying by the reduction factor. That you can avoid. Those two steps can be avoided Both are accepted. Okay, now I will go by this. You can find out what is the factor of safety. Either way, okay, the factor of safety will be 1341.35 divided by 400. You will get a factor of safety of 3.35. Then if I do it with the second method, okay, it will be 1336.28 divided by 400 comes to 3.34. Therefore, there's a very marginal variation in the factor safety. Therefore, both are accepted. You can adopt which one method you want. Both are accepted and you will get marks. Now we'll go to the next case. In the next case, case D, here groundnut table at 0.5 meter below ground level. Now, in this case, students, you can see here, this is water table. I need to draw it here, 0.5 meter. This is 0.5 meter, and this will be the remaining thing. This is out of 1 point, it will be 0.7. Now this will be dry, and this will be saturated, and is quite obviously saturated. Therefore, in this case, in this zone, RW2 will be 0.5. Without even calculation, you can try to take the value. Again, here let us try to find out the average unit weight. Gamma average is equal to 16.8 into, what is that distance? Okay, 0.5 plus 19.5 into 0.7 divided by 0.7 plus 0.5 plus 0.7. Okay, I'll get some value. Now what is gamma effective? 16.8 into 0.5 plus, instead of using the saturated unit weight, I am using submerged unit weight, 19.5 minus 9.81 into 0.7 divided by 0.5 plus 0.7. The unit weight works out to 18.38, and this is 12.65 kilonewton per meter cube. Now we'll try to find out what are the reduction factors. Reduction factors. RW1 is equal to 0.5 into 1 plus ZW1 divided by D. What is the value of ZW1? This is ZW1. Okay, now 0.5 and 1 plus 0.5 divided by D is 1.2. So I'll get this reduction factor. The reduction factor comes to 0.708. Then what is RW2? Even without calculation, you can still write 1 plus ZW2 divided by B, so that you get practice. 1 plus 0 by 1.5, you will get 0.5. Now substituting, I will get my QF value. Okay, in method 1, what is the value QF? It comes to 962.2 kilonewton per meter square. And if you go by method 2, using the effective unit weight, so here you are multiplying 18.38 into this reduction factor, whereas if you multiply with this value, you will get approximately slightly more than, say, it is 12.65, it may come around 12.8. And if I do by this method, I get 944.1 0.16 kilonewton per. See, all my effort to use this reduction factor is to multiply to the unit weight so that I get my correct unit weight, because part of it is dry and part of it is saturated, it is submerged by saturation. Therefore, I need to. Now, factor safety based on this, it comes to 2.41, and based on this value, second method 944.16 divided by 400 comes to 2.36. Okay, it's an acceptable value. Now we'll go to the last case, case E, where the ground table is at the ground level. In this case, what happens? The water table has gone up to the foundation level. The water table is here. In this case, I need to find out. Now, what happens to the value of reduction factors? In this case, both RW1 and RW2, RW1 is equal to 0.5, RW2 is equal to 0. Below this also it is saturated. Therefore, you are going to get 50% reduction. Why this 50% reduction? Because as I told you, your gamma saturated is approximately how much? It is 19.65, it is say around 20. Usually it will be around 19 to 20. And gamma W is equal to 9.81 unit weight of water. Okay, this is approximately, I can take it as 10. Now, gamma submerged is equal to gamma saturated minus gamma W. What happens? This becomes 20 minus of 10 is equal to 10 kilonewton per meter square, meter cube. Therefore, it is approximately 50% of the saturated rate. Therefore, this comes to 0.5. Now, we will try to find out. Okay, you will have only one method only because it is a reduction factor. Therefore, I get my QF is equal to the output in this method. In this case, the factor safety is 1.95. Now let me list for case A what is the factor safety, case B what is the factor safety, case C, case D and case E. Case E is factor safety because whenever you get the values you need to make a comparison. See the comparison, this is 1.95, in the case D the factor safety is 2.41, I will go by any one method. Okay, in case C it is 3.35, then in case B 3.86, this is 3.42. Now this is the case when there is water table which is at a very great depth, greater depth, okay, it is very high. Now in the second case it is at the footing level, in the third case it is below the footing level. What is happening? Therefore it is increasing. Then in the fourth case the water table has gone above the footing level. Therefore the factor safety is getting reduced compared to the second one. Second one it is 2.86 which is at the footing level. Once the water table goes above the footing level, what is happening? It is getting reduced, and once it goes up to the ground level, so you can see the factor safety has got reduced. This is the least value and this is the highest value. Therefore, what is the effect of water table?